right, everybody, we have the day 2 tournament, and again, just as a reminder, there were technically 2 full NA tournaments over the weekend for Duels of Runeterra. There were also 2 full EU tournaments, so 4 tournaments total. So it's pretty cool. We're actually going to get to see 2 semifinals and 2 finals. We already saw, obviously, day 1's finals where OE went ahead and took it over Italian X, but now we're getting into a whole new day. 5 more rounds. That's 10. 5 more rounds of Swiss, followed by a semifinals and a finals. So, and let me tell you, this whole day for day 2 was spicy. We had some absolutely ridiculous decks. When you guys see this fearsome deck play, whoo, so good. It's a go get it fearsome deck. Yeah, that's right. Go get it. If you don't know, is that new 5-mana Ionia card from the KDA set that recalls, replaces it with an ephemeral unit, gives you a 0-cost version in your hand. Jesus, man, talking. You'd think as a caster I could talk by now, but all right. Anyways, we got round 1. Round 1, going to be the WarMachine, a newcomer to the scene. Have not been able to cast him previously, so good stuff there. Versus Successor. So let's go ahead and get into game 1 here. OE. So OE yesterday did take 2nd place in the EU tournament and 1st place in the NA tournament. Actually, Boulevard, did you see if he joined today?
He joined the EU tournament from what I saw. He fell out pretty early, though. I didn't get a chance to check if he did join today, though. I'll take a look at that in a second here.
Well, I know we were talking yesterday. I think if he lost the EU tournament and didn't top, that was probably going to be the last tournament that he played in. Trying to go for that 4-peat there, but unfortunately couldn't make it. But yeah, so OE, I did get with OE, and I know we saw him bring a triple aggro lineup yesterday to the NA tournament, and I asked him, did he change his lineup going into the top 4? So another thing with this tournament is that after the Swiss rounds are over, after the 5 rounds of Swiss are over, people can switch up their decks. They can switch up their entire lineup, and OE said actually he just switched a couple cards between decks, so overall he was just running triple aggro, including spider aggro, my favorite, for all day yesterday.
Okay, well now we are going to have a completely different kind of aggro. It does still include spiders. It is still aggressive, if not aggro, and I say aggressive as we see this Vengeance come off the top of the deck, a little substandard, but it's good old-fashioned Endure spiders, and this looks like the kind of build that we have not seen in quite some time. We see Omen Hawk, we see Vengeance. I think I saw 3 champions in the lineup. I believe it was Elise, Callista, Sejuani. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I believe that's what I saw as well, and we don't always see Sejuani anymore. Wow.
How long has it been since we have seen Omen Hawk into Elise? This is a treat. A 2-mana 3/4 that summons a 1/1 Spiderling. Oh,
seems
man.
busted.
This is classic Runeterra. It's been so... And what is it about November? It feels like, Halloween ended, we rolled back the clocks for daylight savings, and we actually rolled it back about 6 months to the point where we are seeing this kind of Endure spiders again.
Yeah, Endure spiders, and we're also seeing, all right, hold on, let's back up. I was just going to say Endure spiders, and we're also seeing spider aggro. Are we seeing true Endure spiders because spider aggro is a thing again? Is that why?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there's Brood Awakening in any of these decks.
That's a good point. Rip Brood Awakening, the 5.5 mana card that will forever be probably 6 mana, unfortunately.
It just is what it is. But in the meantime, we are going to have an aggressive start on the side of WarMachine, and Successor opening with that Spacey Sketcher does mean that we're not any closer to that Leona level up that's going to be not pivotal, but, pretty good starting point at winning the game. But instead, it's going to be an answer of aggression as the Trickster comes down on the side of Successor.
Yeah, so Trickster actually great here. It does provide a fearsome blocker, also provides some chip damage coming in. With that elusive unit, there's really going to be no way for the WarMachine to deal with this. But WarMachine has a pretty decent field that they will be able to establish as far as, getting this Bark Beast down, which is also notably a 2/2, which will get even bigger once something dies. So this is not terrible for the WarMachine. I think this is off to a fantastic start here if we are able to, as typical Endure decks do, put down a lot of aggression early on. And notably, though, this Trickster will not kill the Elise on a block, so we will need something
that
like...
Omen Hawk, man.
Yeah, Pale
that
Cascade.
Omen Hawk's doing work all of a sudden. I know it's a card that's a little hotly debated on, is this the best one-drop in Freljord, or are we just kind of holding on to this until we can get an actual good one drop out of the region. And this Bark Beast, not a bad hit up either. I'm curious to see if WarMachine's going to go for the all-out attack and say, okay, you know what? If you want to, yes, you can go ahead and block this Bark Beast, but you are going to take, what is this, 6 damage for your trouble? Honestly, I don't know if that's as much as I would kind of like my opponent to take to just eat up my Bark Beast for free. I think I would have liked to get a little bit more out of that.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, 6 damage. That's going to put Successor down to 11. I imagine there's going to be some heal in this deck as well. So I got to agree with you there. I don't think being at 11 is really enough positive end, I guess, to say, or so to speak, with that attack, that you do want to go ahead and sacrifice that Bark Beast. But the WarMachine does decide to go off and do that. We do have the Hapless Aristocrat getting dropped down as well. And we do also see, I mean, I guess the consideration is we already have Atrocity and They Who Endure in hand. So we really probably just want to play to the quickest possible strategy that we could.
Man. And speaking of, the Ravenous Butcher going to come off the top, really going to help accelerate this strategy, as it is an activator for your Hapless Aristocrat. And I mean, this Endure isn't necessarily that small, sort of relative to the board that WarMachine still has this early on in the game. You know, you do still have to worry about, this is a Targon deck. Hush is a potential card, as well as there could have been removal invoked off of that Solari Priestess. So, you know, maybe, is it ever worth it to try and hold this for the 13 mana because you are playing against Targon? Do you need to Atrocity in the same turn? Or do you think that WarMachine's going to be able to just slam this down and try to take it home with that Endure?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. You know, being able to get that Abomination out so quickly, we're just going to be able to go for a really wide attack coming in on this turn. We could even, like, we could consider vengeancing this Ravoon to just go in for an even wider attack. Do we do that?
I think the Tempo Vengeance is the kind of play that you need to go for in a deck like this. Not only that, but the only unit more threatening than Ravoon that I can think of is probably Radiant Guardian, just because this is a Demacia Leona Aesol, so I would assume we're seeing single combat Concerted Strike and maybe Radiant Guardian is the only Demacia cards in the list. This is almost certainly going to be a Mountain Scryer deck, so at only 3 mana, you know, Bastion not available, so that Vengeance is going to take that out and just give you a really nice open attack.
Yeah, I think this is perfect. And again, I think this plays to the strategy that the WarMachine has been, you know, going with this entire game since that Bark Beast attack. Yeah, sure, we're going to sacrifice the Bark Beast because we're going to go aggressive. So what do we do the next turn? We gonna stay aggressive, and we're going to play that Vengeance, get rid of this Ravoon, go wide, deal as much damage as possible. And at this point, I mean, any sort of damage is going to get this They Who Endure up to big enough so that Atrocity is a threat here. Especially because if you block anything, it's just going to add to the They Who Endure. That's one of the funky things about playing against They Who Endure is when you get to that point where you start having to worry about being within Atrocity range, you have to be very careful with how you line up blocks, and you actually do have to track where the They Who Endure is at, because if you're not, and you block too many units, or you block too much damage, or you let too much damage through, then at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that you blocked anything, because the They Who Endure is going to kill you anyways.
So we are just a little shy of having sort of an organic Atrocity lethal, but now Successor has to commit mana to healing himself back up. He still has to redevelop the board because you can't just let your opponent hit you with all of these units again. Meteor Shower is not a bad start to things, but it is a pretty big mana commitment. I don't know how much board presence Successor is going to be able to set up with this remaining 4 mana. And, I mean, you are putting your opponent down to just a bunch of 1/1s, but Endure comes down next turn. Is that something that you have an immediate answer for? Probably not, because you are Targon Demacia, which means that your removal is going to be combat-based. Concerted Strike is what you would need to take out a big Endure. Not even necessarily a big Endure. Even if this is as small as a 6/6, I think it's still fine to throw it down. But now with the Callista off the top, as well as the automatic activator for it, with this Blighted Caretaker, you know, maybe you go that route and try to play the Endure on a developmental attack on the following turn.
Are we worried about Hush in this deck?
We're a little, I mean, we know it's in there. It's got to be in there.
That's what I'm thinking. I feel like Successor's probably playing Hush, and if that's the case, that's going to be the card that now that we essentially, and this is typical of They Who Endure decks, we have, the game is ours, right? Like, we have the game. We just have to make sure we're playing correctly around Successor's cards, like Hush, like Single Combat, like Concerted Strike that you mentioned, which could prove to be difficult. So I do think putting more and more aggression on to get rid of some of those tools prior to playing the They Who Endure is smart. And I really do like this Callista play right here, especially going into a Blighted Caretaker turn.
So you can't level the Callista here just due to board space, but You do also know that your opponent can't actually stun anything on the following turn. So you would be free to play the Endure into an attack just because the unit that levels, or rather the Daybreak effect that levels the Leona does not actually trigger a stun. So unless they play Ravoon as the first card and then you play a second card, then yeah, they can go ahead and stun it with another Daybreak card. But we're going to see the Serpent, and if it is comboed with something like a Pale Cascade, it could actually take out this Callista.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what we're going to see here. Yep, you nailed it, Boulevard. We got the Pale Cascade and even got the Nightfall off, so that's good. Love the Fizz emote. I feel like the Fizz emote, it can be used in very diverse situations. You can almost always use the Fizz emote. That's just my personal opinion, but I love it.
I was actually going through the emotes the other day, and there were a couple that I thought were pretty top tier that don't see play. And what I didn't know is that there was a dragon sort of starter deck that was available in the shop. It had Shyvana and Aurelion Soul and a couple of things like that. And it came with a Shyvana emote that you actually can't buy independently.
Oh, I realized that. And then I got kind of pissed at Riot because I'm like, wait, now I have to buy this bundle just to get this emote? What is this?
I don't think I've ever seen anyone fire off that emote. I didn't even know it existed until I was just kind of like, KDA came out. I was like, yeah, let me peruse the shop, see what's come out since the last time I looked. And apparently I missed quite a bit.
Well, and that's probably why nobody's got the emote, right? Because they're like, well, I already have most of the cards in this deck. All I need to get is Shyvana. Why bother buying this? So
the one thing that I do like, and I don't know if RuneTerra does this, but they did it in League of Legends, where when they put out a bundle, they reduce the cost based on the content that you already own.
I like that. Yeah.
So it is possible that you actually do just get that bundle down to the price of the emote.
Better be. Better be. Because I don't know about you, but if there's one thing I do want, if I'm going to spend money on this game, because basically the cards are free, I'm getting all the emotes. I need to have access to all the emotes.
The fact that the music changes with what board you're using is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, I love that. And a step further, the KDA board, you can choose what music to play.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Oh, man. So, here we go. We are threatening technically lethal with this attack. I imagine, yep, there comes the block. And we'll see if there's anything else played. At this point, I mean, taking 3 damage is definitely risky. This leads me to believe Successor probably has something like a Guiding Touch in hand. But I don't really know. No amount of heal at this point, I think, is really going to get Successor out of this, or outside of the range of an Atrocity.
Well, no, but I mean, you have to consider the Hush still.
Yes, yep.
And if you are trying to play around Hush, I mean, you can't play around Hush and healing, right? And there's a Star Shaping straight away going to play mana efficiently.
Yep, yeah, and that was the next card I was going to say as far as heal is concerned.
And this is scary, because now you can't play your Endure outside of the Atrocity turn, because your opponent definitely has another Celestial that they got off of that Mountain Scryer. So if they got Supernova, then they can just obliterate your Endure, and there's nothing that you can do about that. All of a sudden, you have to sort of slow down again and take this over to turn 10. But if Successor plays a Daybreak unit here, never mind, he's trying to kill you.
Yes. This escalated quickly.
I think he's fine because the Scourge itself does not have Overwhelm. It will only be the other units, so you can still, block that. You'll take a bit of damage, but not enough to kill you. And the point that I was trying to make, I really got lost in it by the Scourge just getting slammed down.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. And I guess, I mean, listen, that's a good pick by Successor, right? Kind of knows what, his opponent's outs may or may not be. They're not really going to have removal for anything. We did see that Wait, hold on. Back up. We kind of floated over that one. There was a Vengeance that was played in this. I feel like we don't always see Vengeance in They Who Endure decks.
I didn't float over that.
Oh, did you mention something about it?
Yeah, I brought that up.
Oh. I don't even...
Man, you never listen to me. I'm hurt.
Slow start.
Man, where's Ice-T at? Anyway, I think I remembered what I wanted to say before the Scourge came down, and it's kind of a moot point at this point, but my concern was that you needed to play the Endure on turn. Oh man, you have 2 Endures. It doesn't matter. Never mind. Throw everything that I was saying out the window. Why do I even try to cast card games when there's top decks to be had? And this is a massive Endure going to come down. He gets one down this turn. He gets another one down on the following turn with the spell mana still to play the Atrocity on turn 10. And critically, we went for the Scourge, which means that the Leona is not leveled. We will not be able to level one of those. But Equinox was not quite what I expected, and that is going to take one of those Endures off the table.
That's actually a big deal, because now we're still kind of back to square one with this second Endure. If we do get a Hush or something from Successor, even though we can play the Atrocity in response to something, if Successor has a Hush, that thing is just chilling in hand. We are not going below the mana needed, and it's going to be really hard for the WarMachine to actually take this one. So we're going to have to do it through possibly attacks, but the Scourge is a big old blocker that could actually just potentially trade with this They Who Endure, especially if there's a Pale Cascade in hand.
It does still represent lethal, though.
Oh, yeah, that is actually exact. Well, if there's a Pale Cascade, it would be one short shy of.
Oh, if there's a Pale Cascade, I'm atrocity.
Yeah.
If you have
Yeah.
Hush there, then yeah, you get your cake and you eat it too, considering that one of your cards is now a Spacey Sketchered up invoked card. So, I mean, yeah, if your hand is Hush healing, I mean, Hush will get it done no matter what. So it really just comes down to, does Successor have Hush or do they not? Even something like a Concerted Strike would just be a little bit too slow to dodge the atrocity because we have lethal on the attack. This could be a bit of a throw if we do see Concerted Strike.
Yeah, this is a very aggressive atrocity. You're just either you win the game or you lose the game, and I can't imagine there's no response to this. Yeah, there's the Concerted Strike.
Yeah, so the
Wow.
attack there represented lethal, but instead WarMachine, not really hesitates. I'm not sure why they didn't go for the attack. It seemed pretty cut and dry to me, but
Yeah.
maybe they thought, a response is going to come out and I'm going to have to use the atrocity, but I mean, there was no Hush, so that was, from my understanding, sort of the perspective that I'm sitting in, that was a straight up punt. Oh, no, it wouldn't have mattered. So, because of the star shaping, you attack, I star shaping.
Yeah.
You don't have the lethal anymore. You atrocity, I go for the Concerted Strike. But maybe that's only if you have an itchy trigger finger, because WarMachine can just, bump into this Scourge. He doesn't have to atrocity for lethal on that turn.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this attack is game.
That's a really good assumption, SJW.
Yeah, it seemed like the WarMachine was playing really well up until that last turn. Not really, I can't really argue any reason as to why you wouldn't go for the attack there, to at least try to bait something out before you play the atrocity. At least that, at the very least. And, yeah, unfortunately, just opts to go for it, and yeah, there was the response. And I guess at that point, when your opponent has so much mana, and this is why it's so important to play around how much mana your opponent has and what options they might have available. Because with that much mana available, we've been talking about Hush, and we talked about Hush so much in that game because Hush is a very low mana commitment, which you'll almost always have open. So it's like an inevitability that your opponent will have Hush. Concerted Strike you can usually play around. And for him to activate that atrocity like that, just right into the face, staring down a Concerted Strike, is a little bit of a questionable decision. But Successor able to take that one away there. We're going to go into game 2. We'll see if we get the same tempo Endure deck. Looks like we have Deep, and then I think that third deck that's brought to the tournament was a Teemo deck, if I read that correctly.
That could be the case.
So I'm kind of, for your sake, Boulevard, I'm hoping we get to see this Teemo deck.
Just because I talk about a deck, do not
Oh,
confuse
no.
that with me liking or advocating.
Oh, no,
for
no,
it.
no. You are officially a Teemo fan. Yep, no, you are
I
always.
hate that.
You are a Teemo
How
fan.
dare
now.
this is slander again. Why must you try and tarnish my reputation?
Oh, man. Teemo Sejuani, man. Teemo Sejuani. Looks like the same
What do
deck,
you
though.
think the split is on this champion lineup out of WarMachine? Are we looking at one Sejuani or one Elise?
I got to assume it's one Sejuani. I feel like any deck that plays Elise, because she's a 2-drop, you're almost always playing 3 of Elise.
I would assume it's got to be 3 Callista, though, because this is Endure Spiders.
Yeah, that is a good point. So it's like, what? I mean, wow. I mean, when you take that into consideration, I guess, what do you prioritize more, Elise or Callista? I generally would agree that you prioritize Callista. But then what the hell do you take out?
This is not looking like a great hand to pair into a Scout deck, but if we see another Elise right off the top...
Yeah, this is, I mean...
Oh.
Well, on the bright side, we're going up against a deck where we definitely have a much better chance to win the game versus that Targon deck, which there was just so many options to counter the They Who Endure, the Atrocity.
Ooh, I was going to say, like, I think Ravenous butchering that Omen Hawk was probably the play.
Oh, just to
because
get the blocker
it is
out.
a 4/3. Now your blocks are
Much better.
very subpar.
Yeah, they would have been much better with that 4/3 out there. You know, and this is tempo indoor for a reason, right? And having Omen.
You mean indoor spiders?
All right, listen. He labeled it tempo indoor. Okay, you and this spider crap.
I don't care what the player's named it.
But this is tempo indoor for a reason. So generally, you want to try to get that tempo out early, and a buffed unit is exactly that. So we also get the buffed Hapless Aristocrat, which is kind of unfortunate. Would have liked to have hit something else, but it is what it is. This will trade quite nicely with the field.
I mean, yeah, in terms of cards, WarMachine's not very far behind, but in terms of tempo, he is all but buried in it right now, as he did throw away another sort of chump blocker into that hired gun, and, you know, he doesn't have any immediate... Oh, and we're getting rid of the 2/2. Trying to maintain the board presence, but these are all 1 health units. They don't pair super well into this Misfortune.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, like, attacking...
Wait, and then you...
Are you, like... Is this the hardest Withering Wail bluff I've ever seen in my life, going into a turn where you don't have Withering Wail mana and potentially against an opponent who is running Ranger's Resolve? Apparently the answer is yes.
I don't think it's that big of a bluff. I don't think it's a bluff. I really don't think it's that 10-headed of a bluff. But yeah, I got to agree. I feel like there's no reason to not attack with the spider there if you're going to attack with the Aversion Sentry as well. I don't know. That was weird. We are going to get the Vile Feast onto the Fleet Feather Tracker, which is helpful, but there's still 3 mana available for Successor to go ahead and bolster that tempo that you just mentioned, you know, with another unit. And this is going to be rough, especially with Misfortune. Both of these blockers, the Spider token and the Aversion Sentry here, yep, they ain't going to do much against the Misfortune.
Yeah, and this means the Misfortune will just get to... Oh, man. And he didn't kill the Fleet Feather Tracker now, which means... yeah, that unit's going to die for free. Hired Gun's going to get to kill this Ravenous Butcher, and then the 1/1 is not an effective blocker. You can go ahead and block the damage coming out of the Misfortune, but you're still eating 5 damage at the end of the day. You are going to be left with no units on field. This should have been done pre-combat because your Avarose Sentry is dying anyway. I'd almost rather see it onto the Hired Gun at this point.
Yeah, I agree. The Hired Gun or even the Jagged Butcher. But yeah, if we're going to use the Vile Feast on the Fleet Feather, I agree. Should have been pre-combat. That way you can't pull the Avarosian Sentry into combat, and Misfortune's effect, notably, only affects in-combat units. So that would be kind of the point of playing that Vile Feast there. So unfortunately, the WarMachine taking a different route. Going to take a bit of damage, not too much. And I don't know, this is not looking great for the WarMachine. We do still have 2 They Who Endures in hand. They're not going to come online until the next attack turn. Are those the saving grace here?
Oh, I mean, they're going to have to be, but I don't know how big they really are. We haven't seen any additional unit generation outside of that 1 Hapless Aristocrat. You know, no Elises, no Bladed Caretakers, and now this Bark Beast really isn't representing much, especially now that the Quinn is coming down. You can take that out as the first unit in combat. You can only attack with Valor. We could actually see not quite a blowout, but something happen if WarMachine does attack with the Quinn as well as the Valor, just because the Misfortune ability will kill the blocker first. The Bark Beast will buff up, but I think Successor's been around the block a few times, isn't going to play into something like that.
Yeah, I got the buff on the Cursed Keeper as well, which is super unfortunate. Just not really nailing these Omen Hawk buffs too much, but already hovering the Shen emo as well, which leads me to believe the WarMachine kind of already thinking he's defeated here, but we'll see. It looks like we're thinking about playing this Vengeance onto the Misfortune to get rid of this effect finally, especially because this Misfortune is looking to level up soon now that we have some scouts in play. So not going to take a whole lot of damage here, just going to take the 1 from Misfortune's effect. But we will still have another attack coming out, as these were just the scout units. Bark Beast getting buffed up. Now we have a 4/4. Okay, this 4/4 can also block the Quinn if it does go in for another attack. So we got some things going for us now on the side of WarMachine. Okay, never mind. We don't. I take it all back.
We have nothing going for us. We are dead? We are dead.
Yeah, we're dead. We're just... That's... Well, is that game? Or that might be just shy of lethal tech. Oh, no, that
16.
can't block. Never mind. Yeah. Yeah, that whole can't block. You know, can't block is a much worse attribute than you'd expect it to be.
The conversation mostly happened back when Legion Rearguard was still an extremely popular Noxus card.
Yeah. Oh yeah, when it was a 3/2. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy the difference between 1 health and 2 health, how that card has been changed. But yeah, wow, yeah, and then Undying is just forever bad until they remove can't block from it, which will probably never happen.
Well, if you hush your Undying, then it can block.
Yeah, there we go. You just have to have a hush every single turn.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Successor taking round 1 there. All right, and Successor going to go ahead and take it over the WarMachine. So good stuff. Again, you will need to go undefeated to go ahead and win out today and make it to the top cut. So we'll see who is able to do that. Successor off to a good start. Unfortunately, WarMachine will likely not be able to qualify. I think we actually did have one 4-1 person that qualified because of how it worked out, whoever dropped or whatever. So there actually was a shot that one 4-1 person can make it. So we'll see that a little bit later on in the rounds when we get to round 5. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. And peace out.